Hey guys, how's it going? Today I have a few more interesting devices to show you guys. So this is the Fossil Wrist PDA, also known as the Fossil Abacus. And this was released back in 2003, and it may have been the first modern smartwatch. So this is a pretty interesting device. I think I've done a video on this device like 5 years ago, but just briefly. So today I want to go a little bit more in-depth into this device. So yeah, why I call this the first modern smartwatch is because it actually runs Palm OS, and that's actually in line with the times because back in 2003 Palm OS was very popular, running on a lot of devices, and I think this was before Palm came out with the Trio. So this was predating any kind of smartphone, but you could still call this kind of like a smartphone operating system because it still ran apps and stuff like that. And Palm OS actually ran on smartphones later on, right? Like the Palm Trio. So that's why I say that this is probably the first smartwatch in a sense, or the first modern smartwatch that actually runs an operating system that you can install apps on that was used on a lot of electronic devices at the time, especially PDAs, and later on smartphones as well. So a bit more about the specs. Palm OS 4.1.2 is the version installed on this device, and the CPU is a Motorola Dragon Ball, which is running at 66 megahertz, very common CPU for the time. It has 8 megs of RAM and 4 megs of flash storage, and the display is 160 by 160. And of course it's a grayscale display. That's actually not surprising considering that's what a lot of Palm devices and handspring devices back then had. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting device. Came out back in 2003 again, way before any other smartwatch came out, which is very forward thinking by Fossil. Like, I have to say that Fossil, even though they're more well known for like fashion watches and stuff like that, they're actually pretty ahead of the curve when it comes to technology watches, right? So this was pretty forward thinking by Fossil. I mean, as a watch collector, definitely I wouldn't put Fossil in any of the respected watch brands list. They're generally just known for fashion stuff, but I have to give them props for coming up with something like this so early on, right? So just look at the ports and the buttons on the side here. So on the left side you have the mini USB port, so it's right now it's charging with the mini USB, and then there's a return. I think this is like a return button right there. And then on the left side, or the right side actually, on the right side you have 2 other buttons here that's used for navigation and selection, and then this button is also used for navigation, and I think this is maybe similar. This is using for selection as well. Actually, we'll actually try that out on Palm OS. And at the back here, all it says here is Abacus, which is the name of this device. It's called the Wrist PDA, also known as the Fossil Abacus. Stainless steel back, and of course powered by Palm. So very, very interesting for the time. Considered very futuristic for the time, right? They call this kind of like a Dick Tracy watch, because at the time there's nothing like this, right? And there wouldn't be really in the mainstream until years and years later. I think Apple Watch kind of brought the smartwatch into the mainstream. Pebble Time, the Pebble and Pebble Time actually brought it to the mainstream before the Apple Watch, but that wasn't until like maybe 2012-ish, I want to say. So definitely the early 2010s is when people actually started using smartwatches en masse. But at this time, definitely people didn't really have any concept of a smartwatch, right? So yeah, let's go into it. It does run full on Palm OS. So this is Palm OS 4, and anyone who has used a Palm Pilot before, you guys can kind of understand this interface. So you have your address right here, so like a phone number. I think this is actually, okay, so this is selections, go back. This is go back as well, okay. Okay, so this little pusher on the side is actually for navigation, and then you press it in for selection. So this is all the different apps here. We'll just go by them one by one actually. I mean, this is a pretty slow device because it is, I mean, so it's a watch from the earlier 2000s. What do you expect, right? Okay, so let's go to the address first. Okay, so Wrist PDA support is the only phone number on here. Can we actually call one? I don't think you can call anyone, right? Because this is just supposed to be a pocket or a wrist PDA, right? A wrist PDA, which means PDAs don't have any ability to call anyone, right? It's not a phone. So PDAs are just meant to, I mean, they can install apps and stuff like that, play games, and keep track of appointments and stuff like that. They can basically do everything the modern smartphone can do, except for calling people and using any network related stuff. So I mean, this is a PDA, so can't call people, but you can do everything else. So this is a contact information, and this is to go back, I guess. Yeah. So this button, go back. So these two buttons, I'm not really sure. Maybe they're just used for functions for different apps and stuff. So this is calculator. So here we go. We have the calculator watch. All right. So this is a digital calculator watch now. So I have my Casio calculator watch, which is also a calculator watch, except you actually have the number buttons right here. All right. So this is actually a data bank, the Casio data bank, which has the physical tactile buttons for all the numbers and stuff. You can still kind of look geeky or cool wearing this, I guess. You can actually press these right with your fingertips, but it's very hard to press. Anyways, so yeah, this is the actual data bank calculator watch by Casio, and then this is the kind of digital version by Fossil. And yes, I think this might have originally came with a stylus, because when I set up this watch, it actually asked me to calibrate this stylus, which means that this is a touch screen, I think, but I can't use the touch screen right now, so I don't know. There actually was a stylus calibration screen when I booted it up, so I would assume it's a touch screen, but it's not. Not working right here, so I'm not sure what's going on. Can I use it? Nope, nothing's. Okay, so I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe the touchscreen was working at one point, but it's not working anymore. I mean, this is a pretty old device, so I believe this maybe was originally a touchscreen, but just the touchscreen does not function anymore. That's probably what happened. So yeah, calculator, although I can't use it, but you guys can see that. Date book. So this is your typical PIM stuff, going through the calendar. You know, we can go through the day of the week, and again, the touchscreen on this device is not working, but I think originally there was supposed to be a touchscreen here, a resistive one, and then you use a stylus. Imagine using a stylus for a watch, right? That's kind of interesting. Very, very hard to, I mean, even this display, 160 by 160 on a small watch display is kind of hard to look at, but imagine like something this small and you got to use a stylus with it. That's got to be kind of painful, but still, it's really cool just to have this ability, right? I've never seen any other device like it of the time. But yes, you can scroll through the different days of the week, and then you can go to a calendar, a different view, I guess, and then you can go to another. Yeah, this is another calendar view where you can see the month, right? Ooh, okay, so now we can scroll through. Okay, so now these two buttons, I know what they're for now. They're for different functions within the apps. So in this case, it's kind of to scroll through the different months. Okay, May 2004, June, or I can go back, right? And then this is for navigation within the app itself. So now I can choose the different days within the month. I can choose to go inside the day, right, by pressing that, and it's no appointments or whatever like that. And yep, okay. Now I understand what these buttons all do. All right, that's cool. Yep, and then let's go back. This is the back button. Okay. And then there's hot sync. Obviously, it's Palm OS, and that's what they use to sync with the computer. So you need to have a cradle. I'm actually not sure what the cradle for this would be. I guess it would use the mini USB connector, I'm guessing, right? Because they don't have any wireless stuff going on back then. So I'm guessing, yeah, they would just use the mini USB connector to sync it. And this is graffiti. So kind of proof here that this was originally meant to be a touchscreen. Just this particular one that I have right now, the touchscreen doesn't work, and I think it's just because it's old, and I got this used, so the touchscreen doesn't work. But yeah, obviously this was originally meant to have a touchscreen now, because it's graffiti, right? So you have to actually draw something in the stylus here, and then it would show up, and that's usually how Palm OS does it. It has graffiti support. So you can either type, there's two ways of inputting on a Palm OS device, right? You can have this on-screen keyboard, you can use the stylus to input that, or you can draw a character on your stylus and it will show up as that. So you can use either or. So there's graffiti support here, and then you have a memo pad. So you can use this for notes, right? So it's for power tips. Ooh. To set up your business card for beaming. Go to address, select the record. Ooh, I've never beamed a business card before. That's cool. I feel important and special. Okay, wrist PDA. Imagine you're wearing it like something like this back then. You're like some super important businessman with your pager, and then you have a Fossil wrist PDA on your wrist. It's like, I'm too business even for a Palm Pilot. I need to have something even more special and unique. So you have to have Palm OS on your wrist. Okay, so that's how I do it. I have a PDA on my wrist. Yeah, that's like super geeky. But yeah, okay. Just reading stuff, and I'm sure you can input your own notes here as well. Yep. So you go to new. Oops. Maybe that was this new. Oh yeah. Maybe I just need the stylus for that. And there's some stuff I can't show you guys because I don't have the touchscreen on this working. So unfortunately, cannot press any of those buttons because the touchscreen on this doesn't work. But at least you guys know that that they're there. And if this was new, then it will probably work, and that's how people would do things on this device. Okay, so that was MemoPad, where you can write notes and stuff like that, and view other people's notes. Download applications, so you can download apps on Palm OS, of course. So that's also pretty interesting. You can play like Doom on this thing, for example, right? That would be kind of cool. And I'm sure you can if you actually hot sync it and install all the apps and stuff. So this is preferences. So yeah, obviously just setting the date and stuff like that. It's the settings. So nothing's too special there. Security. Okay. Security, you have a password. Imagine inputting a password for your watch. Auto locking it. Current privacy, shown records. Okay. Okay, well, anyways, there's security options. I don't think there's backlighting, so that's why it's a little bit hard to see, maybe. I'll have to put it directly up to the light for you guys to see this. Basic skills. Yeah, okay, that tells me how to use it. Okay. It's fine. Okay. Press this hard because this button's not working as well. A to-do list. It's a classic one. I actually use this on my phone a lot, actually, since I have a lot of to-dos. So this is to make a to-do list, and then I'm guessing you would use a stylus to check things off. I mean, that's just how, you know, Palm OS works. So on any Palm Pilot you can do this, and it's cool that you can do this on the wrist PDA as well, or the Abacus. All right, watch. So this is the digital clock I'm using right now, but I believe you can scroll through a different one. So that's a different one. This is a 24-hour version. Okay, that's an interesting version. And then you can have it like this style, this style, this style. This is kind of like a moon or something like that. And then this is like an analog style, another analog style, another analog style. See, very cool. I mean, this is basically what the Pebble did, right? If you had a Pebble or the Meta M1, which is actually the Meta M1 is made by some of the same employees as Fossil. So in a way, it kind of came around for full circle, didn't it? So that's interesting. Yes, the Fossil Abacus, I mean, now you can see this is kind of like a modern-ish smartwatch, right? I mean, kind of like a Pebble, right? I know Pebbles don't really exist anymore, but this is basically what the Pebble was, right? You can change the watch faces like that. And this is basically what the Meta was as well, which is kind of the successor to the Abacus. But those watches all came out like 10 years later. So the fact that the Abacus came out 2003 and had all these abilities is very impressive, very ahead of its time, right? Again, something that you would see on a Pebble like 10 years later. Changing those kind of watch faces, exactly having this kind of gray interface as well. It's not like the Pebble even had color, right? Like those, when smartwatches first became popular in the early 2010s, yeah, it's basically just like this. It's black and white. The Pebble was black and white, the Meta was black and white. So basically the same thing, just 10 years later. This is a welcome. So of course this is, see, this is where it asked me to calibrate the stylus. That's how I know this was originally a touchscreen. Just on my device it doesn't work, but this was a touchscreen, or originally if I bought this new, the touchscreen would actually be working, and then you could do a lot more functions with it. That's pretty much it. That's the Fossil Abacus, or the Fossil Wrist PDA. Very, very ahead of its time. I mean, look at all the functions, and you can install more apps, of course. You can just go to the Palm OS. Any Palm OS apps you can install on this device. So very, very impressive. Fossil was very ahead of its time. Because like I said, 10 years later, when Pebble came out with their watches, and the Meta, and some other devices, I think some other smartwatches, the early smartwatches that came out were pretty much the same as this. They're not even any more functional, right? You had the same black and white interface, small screen, limited support for apps, but you can still do basically just what this one did, right? But this was like 10 years ahead of its time, so that's really impressive. And this leather strap, I guess, that it came with, I wonder if you can change it out, because this one is starting to break a little bit. But yeah, it came with this leather strap, so yeah, very, very impressive by Fossil. I mean, they were so ahead of its time in releasing this watch. Really, I think 10 years ahead of its time. But that's just a cool piece of history, guys. I believe this is the first modern smartwatch, or I can call it the first modern smartwatch, because it ran what is basically a pseudo operating system. It is a mobile operating system, right? Palm OS is a mobile operating system, and this was like the first, or among the first, mobile like watch devices to actually run that. So yeah, it's like a pioneer. And not a lot of people know about this device, but you know, for me, it's part of my collection. I have it as a part of electronic history, I guess. So yeah, anyways guys, that is the Fossil Wrist PDA, also known as the Fossil Abacus. Let me know in the comment section if you have any questions or comments, and as always, thanks for watching. This is basically a nice piece of history right here. Basically the pioneer of modern smartwatches. So props to Fossil for being so forward thinking.